I found out my wedding fund was gone the same way I always found out things in my family, by accident, and always last. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind that smells like dust and printer ink. I had ducked into my parents' house after work to grab my birth certificate for the marriage license. My heels clicked down the familiar hallway, past framed family photos that told a very specific story. My sister smiling in the center of every frame, and me cropped slightly to the side, like an afterthought someone forgot to remove. I didn't think anything of it. I never did. I was raised to believe that silence was maturity, that swallowing disappointment was grace, and that being the easy one was a compliment. I reached my dad's office and opened the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet. That's when I saw the folder. Wedding fund. Closed. Closed. My fingers froze. I stared at the label like it might rearrange itself if I waited long enough. That fund had been opened the day I turned 18. My mother had announced it over dinner, smiling too brightly. "One day when you get married, we'll help you," she'd said. Help. Not pay for everything, not spoil me, just help. I never asked for more. I pulled the folder out and flipped it open. The balance page was on top. $0.00. Zero. Not transferred, not frozen, gone. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. I flipped through the rest of the papers, hands trembling now, scanning for some explanation, some logical adult reason. Then I saw the note, written in my dad's unmistakable blocky handwriting. Funds allocated to Emily. She needs it more. Emily. My sister. I didn't hear my dad come in behind me. I only realized I wasn't alone when he cleared his throat. "You weren't supposed to see that yet," he said. I turned slowly. "See what?" I asked, even though my voice already knew the answer. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, not even looking guilty, just firm, decided, like the conversation was already over. "The wedding money," he said. "We gave it to your sister." I waited. For the punchline, for the explanation, for the part where he laughed awkwardly and said he was kidding. It didn't come. "You gave it to Emily," I repeated. "Yes." All the air left my chest at once. "But," swallowed, "that fund was for my wedding." He sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "You're marrying well. You'll be fine." That sentence landed harder than I expected. "And Emily?" I asked quietly. He didn't hesitate. "She deserves it more." There it was, the sentence that had followed me my entire life. Emily deserves it more. She deserved the bigger bedroom. She deserved the better school. She deserved the second chances, the forgiveness, the money, the attention. I deserved understanding, patience, silence. "Dad," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady, "Emily already had her wedding." "She wants a renewal," he replied, "a real one this time." A real one. Because her first wedding, paid for, planned, celebrated, apparently didn't count. My hands clenched into fists. "And you didn't think to tell me?" I asked. "You didn't ask," he said flatly. I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound that didn't belong to me. "I didn't ask because I trusted you." He shrugged. "That was your mistake." The words stung more than I expected. Maybe because they were true, or maybe because I was tired of always being the one expected to absorb the blow quietly. I picked up the folder, closed it, and set it back in the drawer with shaking hands. "I'm engaged," I said. "You know that." "Yes, and your fiancé seems capable." Capable. Like I was being transferred from one caretaker to another. "You don't think this affects me?" I asked. He looked at me then. Really looked, and for a split second I thought I saw something flicker across his face. Doubt. Maybe even regret. Then it hardened. "You've always been strong," he said. "Emily isn't." I stared at him. Emily wasn't strong because she was never required to be. I turned and walked out before my voice betrayed me. I didn't cry until I was in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I sat there for a long time, staring at the house I grew up in, the house where I learned how to shrink myself, how to earn love by being low maintenance, how to smile even when I felt invisible. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. How did it go? Daniel, my fiancé, the man my father thought meant I'd be fine. I stared at the screen, then typed, "Can we talk tonight?" 3 dots appeared immediately. "Of course, everything okay?" I hesitated. "Not really." "I'm on my way," he replied. I sat there, letting the tears fall silently, wondering how I was supposed to explain this without sounding bitter or entitled. Because that's what women like me are always afraid of being called, entitled. I went home and changed to sweats. I didn't bother fixing my makeup. When Daniel knocked on the door 20 minutes later, I opened it with red eyes and a tight smile. He took one look at me and didn't say a word, just pulled me into his chest and held me there. I broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like I always did. "They gave my wedding fund to my sister," I whispered into his shirt. His body went still. "What?" he asked, pulling back slightly to look at me. "My dad said she deserves it more." Daniel didn't speak right away. His jaw tightened in a way I recognized. Not anger, control, like he was choosing his next words carefully. "How much was it?" he asked. I told him. He exhaled slowly. "And they didn't even ask you?" "No." He nodded once. "Okay," he said. That was it. "Okay." I pulled back, confused. "That's all?" He looked at me with a softness that made my chest ache. "I'm sorry they did that to you," he said. "You didn't deserve it." The simplicity of that sentence almost undid me. No justification, no advice, no minimizing, just validation. We sat on the couch and I told him everything about the folder, about the note, about my dad's words. Daniel listened without interrupting, hands folded loosely, eyes focused on me like nothing else existed. When I finished, I waited for the question I always got from people. "Why does your family treat you like that?" But he didn't ask. Instead, he said something that made my heart skip. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course." "Did you ever actually want their money?" he asked gently. "Or did you just want to know you mattered enough to keep their promise?" The lump in my throat was instant. "The second one," I whispered. He nodded. I thought so. He stood up, walked to the window, and stared for a moment like he was organizing his thoughts. Then he turned back to me. "I think it's time I stop letting people underestimate us," he said. "Us? What do you mean?" I asked. He smiled, but there was something different in it now, something steady, certain. "There are things about me I haven't talked much about," he said, "not because I was hiding them, just because, well, I didn't think they mattered." My heart began to pound. "Daniel?" He took a breath. "I think it's time you knew who you're actually marrying." The way he said it, calm, controlled, deliberate, sent a chill through me. "What are you talking about?" I asked. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. "Before your family decides what you're worth," he said quietly, "I want you to understand something." He unlocked the screen, turned it toward me, and said, "They don't get to decide our future." I looked at the screen, and in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my fiancé began to change. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was crying, not because I was angry, but because something inside me had shifted so violently it felt like my entire childhood had been relabeled as a lie. I kept replaying my father's voice in my head. She deserves it more. More than me. More than the daughter who stayed. More than the daughter who worked 2 jobs in college. More than the daughter who canceled vacations to help with bills. More than the daughter who never asked for anything. I stared at the ceiling until the sun rose, listening to Ethan's breathing beside me. Calm, steady, protective. He slept like someone who knew something I didn't, and that should have scared me. Instead, it grounded me. The morning after, my phone buzzed at 7:14 a.m., a text from my mother. "Mom, let's not make this bigger than it needs to be. You know how your father is." I sat up in bed, thumb hovering. I almost typed back. I almost apologized. Then I deleted the message entirely. I wasn't doing that anymore. Ethan stirred and opened one eye. "You okay?" he asked softly. I nodded, then shook my head, then laughed once, sharp and bitter. "No," I said, "but I will be." He studied my face carefully, like he was reading something under the surface. "They're going to expect you to show up today," he said. I frowned. "How do you know that?" He smiled faintly. "Because families like yours always do." That sentence stuck with me. Families like yours. Not ours. Not mine and his. Yours. The family lunch. I went anyway. Not because I wanted to, not because I owed them, but because I needed to see something with clear eyes. The restaurant was the same one we'd gone to every Sunday for years. White tablecloths, fake candles, familiar smells that used to mean comfort. Now they made my stomach twist. My sister, Lily, was already there. She looked radiant, glowing, wearing a coat that cost more than my monthly rent. She hugged me like nothing had happened. "Oh my God, you look tired," she said. "Wedding stress?" I stared at her. "You mean the wedding I'm now funding myself?" Her smile flickered, just for half a second. Then she recovered. "Dad said you'd understand," she said gently. "You're always so practical." Practical. That was the word they used when they wanted me small. Our father cleared his throat. "Let's sit." No apology, no explanation, just entitlement. The justification. Halfway through lunch, my dad leaned back in his chair and sighed like a man burdened by fairness. "You need to stop acting like this is some betrayal," he said. "Lily needs that money." I set my fork down. "For what?" I asked calmly. He waved his hand. "Her lifestyle, her future. She married well." Lily smiled, eyes flicking to her diamond ring. "And I didn't?" I asked. My dad scoffed. "You're marrying a man with no family name, no connections, no legacy." I felt Ethan's hand tighten around mine under the table. My mother jumped in. "It's not personal, sweetheart." That's when Ethan spoke, quietly, politely. "But it is personal," he said. "You took money promised to your daughter and gave it to another based on favoritism." My father bristled. "And who are you to judge my parenting?" Ethan smiled. "Someone who sees the pattern clearly." Silence fell. Lily rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, you're being dramatic." That was the moment I realized something terrifying. They truly believed they were right. The first crack. When lunch ended, my father stood and adjusted his jacket. "Let's not drag this out," he said. "The decision is final." Ethan stood too. "So is ours." That caught everyone off guard. My mother frowned. "What does that mean?" Ethan didn't answer. He looked at me. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. I nodded, and for the first time in my life, I stood up from that table without asking permission. The drive home. I didn't speak for 10 minutes. Neither did he. Then I finally asked, "What did you mean by 'so is ours'?" Ethan exhaled slowly. "I was hoping your family would handle this with dignity," he said. "But now what?" He glanced at me. "Now they'll learn who they underestimated." My heart skipped. "What are you saying?" He pulled into our driveway and turned off the engine. "I never wanted our marriage to start with conflict," he said. "I wanted peace for you." I swallowed. "Ethan." He took my hands. "But I will not let anyone disrespect you," he continued. "Not your father, not your sister, not anyone." I whispered, "You're scaring me." He smiled softly. "Good," he said. "That means you're about to see the truth." The truth he'd been hiding. That night, he opened his laptop, not casually, not nervously, confidently. He logged into an account I'd never seen. Numbers filled the screen, large numbers, balances that made my chest tighten. "What am I looking at?" I asked. "Our joint future," he replied. I laughed once. "Ethan, that's not funny." He turned the screen toward me. "Look closer." I did, and then I couldn't breathe. This can't be." He nodded. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want money to define us," he said, "but I also didn't expect your family to treat you like you were disposable." I stared at the figures. Net worth, assets, trust holdings. "Ethan," I whispered, "you're—" "Yes," he said calmly, "that wealthy." The reason. I felt dizzy. "You let my family talk down to you," I said, "for years." "I did," he admitted, "because it didn't matter." I shook my head. "Why?" "Because I wanted to marry you," he said, "not impress them." My eyes burned. "And now?" "Now they crossed a line," he said, "and they did it publicly." I sat back slowly. "You knew they'd underestimate you." "I expected it," he said. "What I didn't expect was how deeply they'd hurt you." My voice cracked. "They always have." His jaw tightened. "And they won't again." The plan. "I'm not buying revenge," I said quickly. "I don't want—" "I know," he said. "This isn't revenge." He paused. "It's correction." I stared at him. "What are you going to do?" He smiled, slow and dangerous. "Nothing," he said. "Not directly." That scared me more. The call. The next morning, my father called. I almost didn't answer. Almost. "What do you want?" I asked. He sighed heavily. "Your sister is planning an engagement party upgrade." I laughed. "You're calling to ask for more money," I said. "No," I snapped. "I'm calling to tell you to stop poisoning Lily against us." My laugh died. "I haven't spoken to her." "Well, she's upset," he said, "and she says you're acting distant." I closed my eyes. "I am distant." "You're being selfish," he said, "after everything we've done for you." That's when Ethan took the phone from my hand. "Sir," he said calmly, "you should prepare yourself." "For what?" my father snapped. "For the consequences of your choices." He hung up. The calm before. That night, I lay awake again, but this time not because of pain, because of anticipation. Something was coming. I could feel it, and I didn't yet know whether it would heal me or burn everything down. I didn't sleep that night, not because of my father's words, "She deserves it more," but because of the way Daniel had gone quiet afterward. The kind of quiet that isn't empty, but loaded, like a storm holding its breath. We were lying side by side in my childhood bedroom, the one with the cracked ceiling fan and the faint smell of old books and lemon cleaner. The house was silent, except for my mother's soft snoring down the hall and the occasional creak of pipes. I stared at the glow-in-the-dark stars still stuck to the ceiling. I'd begged for them when I was 10. My father had rolled his eyes then, too. Daniel lay on his back, one arm behind his head, the other resting lightly on my waist. His breathing was slow, controlled, too controlled. "Daniel?" I whispered. "You're thinking too hard." He smiled faintly. "You know me too well." I turned onto my side, propping my head on my hand. "Say it." "Say what?" "What you're not saying." He was quiet again. Then he exhaled. "I don't like the way they treat you," he said calmly. That wasn't new. He'd said it before, carefully, respectfully. He never wanted to put me in the position of choosing, but something about his tone now felt different, firmer, decided. "I'm used to it," I said, even though my throat tightened. "It's just how they are." "That doesn't make it okay." I shrugged. "They paid for my sister's piano lessons, her study abroad, her car. I paid my way through college with scholarships and night shifts. This is just on brand." Daniel turned his head to look at me then. His eyes were dark, unreadable. "And the wedding fund?" he asked. I swallowed. "I always knew it might not be there. But you still hoped." That landed harder than I expected. I looked away. "I guess." Daniel reached up and brushed his thumb gently under my chin, guiding my face back toward him. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "If you had known this would happen, really known, would you still have invited them to the wedding?" The question lingered between us. I thought of my father's smug expression, my mother's silence, my sister's satisfied smile when she'd announced the venue she'd booked with my money. I thought of all the times I'd swallowed disappointment to keep the peace, and suddenly the answer came easily. "No," I said. Daniel nodded slowly, as if confirming something to himself. "Okay." "Okay what?" He smiled then, not his usual soft smile, something sharper, controlled. "Okay, then it's time." My heart skipped. Time for what? He sat up, swinging his legs over the edge of the bed. "Time they stop underestimating you, and time they stop underestimating us." I pushed myself upright too. "Daniel, what are you talking about?" He turned to face me fully, his expression gentle again, but steady. "Tomorrow, your family is coming over for brunch, right?" "Yes," I said slowly. "My mom planned it." "Good. I'll join you." "You always do." "I know," he said, "but tomorrow I'm coming differently." A chill ran through me. "You're scaring me a little." He laughed softly. "I promise, nothing bad, just honest." I studied his face. Daniel was kind, patient, thoughtful. He volunteered at shelters. He fixed broken things without being asked. He hated bragging, but there were pieces of his life he never talked about in detail. I'd met his mother once, briefly. Elegant, polite, distant. I knew he'd grown up abroad for part of his childhood, that he'd gone to a private university on scholarship, that he worked in consulting. But whenever I tried to dig deeper, he deflected. Not evasively, just selectively. "Daniel," I said carefully, "if this is about money—" "It's not about money," he interrupted gently. "Then what is it about?" He reached for my hand and squeezed it. "Respect." The next morning, my parents' house buzzed with forced cheer. My mother bustled around the kitchen, laying out pastries she'd bought instead of baked. My sister Claire arrived late, wearing oversized sunglasses and carrying an expensive leather bag I'd never seen before. She kissed my mother's cheek and barely glanced at me. Daniel arrived 10 minutes after me, impeccably dressed in a navy blazer and crisp white shirt. No tie. Relaxed but intentional. My father shook his hand, polite but dismissive. "So," my father said as we gathered around the table, "how's work, Daniel?" "Busy. Productive." My father nodded. "Good. Stability is important." Claire smirked into her mimosa. I clenched my jaw. As brunch progressed, the conversation drifted, as it always did, toward Claire's upcoming wedding. The florist confirmed imported peonies. "Oh, and the photographer," Claire added, "he shot 3 celebrity weddings last year." "That must have cost a fortune," I said quietly. Claire shrugged. "Worth it." My father chuckled. "Your sister knows how to invest in the right things." I felt Daniel's hand brush against mine under the table. Then my father turned to me. "And you two?" he said. "Any updates?" I hesitated. "We're still planning." "On a budget," Claire added sweetly. Something in Daniel shifted. He set his fork down gently.
Actually, he said, smiling, we finalized a few things. My mother brightened. Oh, yes, Daniel said. Venue, catering, guest list. My father raised an eyebrow. Already? I thought you were waiting. We were, but then circumstances clarified priorities. I felt my pulse quicken. And how are you managing all that? My father asked, a hint of challenge in his voice. Weddings aren't cheap. Daniel smiled. No, they're not. Claire leaned back in her chair. Hopefully you're not expecting help. Dad already explained the situation. Daniel nodded calmly. I'm aware.
My father's chest puffed slightly. Good. It's important to live within your means. Daniel met his gaze. Absolutely, he said, which is why we're paying for everything ourselves. Silence fell. Claire blanked. Everything? Yes, Daniel said. Venue, catering, music, accommodations, all of it. My mother frowned slightly. That's ambitious. Daniel shrugged lightly. We planned accordingly. My father scoffed. Well, I hope you're not going into debt for a party. Daniel chuckled. No debt. Claire laughed. Must be nice to have confidence. Daniel turned to her. Confidence comes from preparation. I watched the exchange, heart racing. Then my father leaned forward. So, exactly what do you do again, Daniel? Daniel smiled. I run a private investment firm. My father paused. You said consulting? I consult for high net worth clients. Claire tilted her head. Like, how high? Daniel took a sip of water. Typically, he said, 8 to 9 figures. The table went still. My mother's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My father laughed nervously. That's a joke. Daniel didn't laugh. I'm also a limited partner in several international funds, he continued calmly, and I recently acquired a controlling stake in a logistics company. My sister's smile faltered. My father cleared his throat. That's impressive. Daniel nodded politely. Thank you. Then he turned to me. And my fiancé, he said, placing a hand over mine, is the smartest person I know. She manages her finances meticulously. She paid off her student loans early. She's been saving since she was 19. I felt heat rise to my face. And she never asked for anything she didn't earn. Claire scoffed weakly. So what, you're rich now? Daniel tilted his head. I've always been. The room felt like it had tilted. My father's face flushed. If that's true, why didn't you say anything? Daniel's expression remained calm. Because it was never relevant, until respect became conditional. Silence again. Then he added, gently but clearly, and because I wanted to see how you treated her when you thought there was nothing to gain. No one spoke. My mother looked at me, eyes wide. My sister stared at her glass. My father swallowed. Daniel stood. We'll be heading out, he said politely. We have a meeting. I rose with him, legs shaky. At the door, my father finally spoke. You could have helped, he said gruffly.
Daniel turned back. We are helping, he said, by setting boundaries. Then he opened the door and gestured for me to step outside. As the door closed behind us, my heart pounded. Daniel, I whispered once we reached the car, what just happened? He smiled softly, cupping my face. Just the beginning, he said. And for the first time in my life, I realized something profound. They hadn't just underestimated me. They had no idea who I was standing beside, and they were about to learn exactly what that meant. I didn't sleep that night, not because of anger, not even because of heartbreak. It was the clarity, the kind that settles in when the noise finally dies and you see the truth laid out clean and sharp in front of you. By morning, I knew something my father still didn't. He thought he'd won. He thought the wedding fund was the final blow, the last reminder that I was second, optional, replaceable. What he didn't realize was that the money was never the point. It had never been. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains of the small guest room Ethan and I were staying in. I watched it move slowly across the floor while he slept beside me, calm and steady, like the world hadn't just cracked open under my feet. I studied his face in that quiet moment, the relaxed jaw, the unguarded expression, the way he slept like someone who wasn't pretending anymore. And that's when it hit me. My father had underestimated him completely, on purpose. I slipped out of bed and padded into the kitchen. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. My mother had already left for work. My father's study door was closed. I poured coffee and sat at the table, hands wrapped around the mug, grounding myself. This was the day everything shifted. When Ethan finally joined me, he didn't ask if I was okay. He already knew. "You ready?" he asked gently. I nodded. For the first time in my life, yes. We arrived at my parents' house just before noon. The driveway was full. My sister's car, her fiancé's, my father's pride and joy parked front and center like a shrine. He'd called a family meeting, which translated meant he wanted an audience. The living room buzzed with low conversation when we walked in. My sister sat on the couch scrolling her phone, smug as ever. Her fiancé leaned back comfortably, already acting like the future owner of everything he hadn't earned. My father stood when he saw us. There it was, that look, the one that said, "Watch this." "Good," he said loudly, "you're here." Ethan's hand rested lightly at my back, not protective, supportive. My father cleared his throat.
"I wanted to address this situation properly," he began, "so there are no misunderstandings." My sister looked up now, smiling faintly. "I've decided," my father continued, "that the wedding fund originally set aside for my eldest daughter will officially be transferred to your sister." He turned to me, as if expecting tears, or pleading, or gratitude for the explanation. I gave him none of it. "She's starting her life properly," he added, "with stability, with a man who can provide." The words landed like he intended, but something unexpected happened. People shifted. My mother's jaw tightened. My sister's fiancé frowned slightly, and my father noticed. Ethan stepped forward, calm, polite, dangerous in the quiet way my father had never learned to read. "May I say something?" Ethan asked. My father hesitated, then nodded. Briefly. Ethan smiled. "Of course." He turned, not to my father, but to the room. "To be clear," he said, "this decision doesn't affect our wedding." My sister scoffed. "Of course it does." Ethan looked at her, amused. "Does it?" She opened her mouth, then paused. My father frowned. "What are you talking about?" Ethan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folder. Just paper, but the room felt like it tilted. "I didn't want to bring this up," Ethan said evenly, "because it never mattered to us. But since finances seem to be the deciding factor here, transparency feels appropriate." He handed the folder to my father. "What's this?" my father snapped. "Documentation," he replied, "of my assets." The word hung there. Assets. My father flipped it open, and then everything changed. I watched his face as the color drained, the confident set of his shoulders collapsing inch by inch as he scanned page after page. Numbers, names, companies, property holdings, trust structures. He swallowed. Once, then again. My sister leaned forward. "Dad?" My father didn't answer. He looked up slowly, at Ethan. You're exaggerating," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Ethan shook his head. "Those are conservative figures." The silence was deafening.
My sister snatched the folder from my father's hands. Her eyes widened. Her fiancé leaned in, then leaned back, hard. "What the hell is this?" she whispered. Ethan finally looked at me and smiled. "This," he said gently, "is why we never asked for the wedding fund." My father stood abruptly. "You lied." "No," Ethan corrected. I stayed quiet. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from release. Years of being overlooked, measured, weighed, and found lacking, all undone in a single moment of truth. My father's voice cracked. "Why wouldn't you say something?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Because your love shouldn't depend on a balance sheet." The words hit harder than any accusation. My sister shot to her feet. "So what? You were testing us?" "No," Ethan said. "You tested yourselves." Her fiancé shifted uncomfortably. "Babe, maybe we should—" She rounded on him. "Don't." My father turned to me then, really looked at me. For the first time in my life, not as the disappointment, not as the quiet one, but as the woman standing beside a man he suddenly feared. "You knew," he said. I nodded. "I always knew who he was. I just didn't think you'd need proof to treat me like your daughter." My mother covered her mouth. My father opened his, closed it, opened it again, and for once, he had nothing. Ethan reached for my hand. "We'll be paying for our own wedding," he said, "like we planned." He paused. "And we'll be doing it without conditions." We walked out of that house together, not in anger, in freedom, and behind us, the illusion of control finally shattered. But the real reckoning, it was still coming. I used to think betrayal was loud, a scream, a slammed door, a cruel sentence spoken with intention, but I learned the truth that day. Betrayal is quiet. It sounds like a father calmly saying, "I made the decision that made the most sense." It looks like a sister avoiding your eyes while standing in the dress you were promised. And it feels like standing in your childhood living room, realizing the place that shaped you no longer has space for who you've become. I didn't cry when my dad gave my wedding fund to my sister. Not then. I just nodded. I thanked him for being honest, and I left. The calm before the truth. For 3 days after that conversation, I barely spoke. I went to work, I answered emails, I smiled when people congratulated me on my upcoming wedding, and every night I lay awake beside the man I was supposed to marry, wondering if my father was right. Maybe I didn't deserve it. Maybe I was the difficult one, the quiet one, the daughter who didn't ask for much, so people assumed she didn't need anything. On the 4th night, I finally broke. We were sitting on the floor of our apartment, surrounded by unopened wedding magazines and half-finished seating charts. I stared at my hands and whispered, "He gave it to her." My fiancé, Daniel, didn't speak right away. He just waited. So I told him everything. How my parents had promised that fund since I was 16. How my sister had always been louder, needier, more celebrated. How Dad had smiled and said, "She deserves it more. She needs a big wedding." Daniel didn't interrupt, didn't sigh, didn't give advice. When I finished, my voice shaking, I finally looked up, and what I saw in his face scared me. Not anger, resolve. "There's something you need to know." "Did you ever wonder," he asked quietly, "why I never cared what kind of wedding we had?" I shrugged. "You said you didn't need anything fancy." "I didn't lie," he said, "but I didn't tell you everything either." My heart started pounding. He reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone, and handed it to me. On the screen was an email. Subject line, "Transfer confirmation, $1,250,000. I stared at it, confused. Then I looked at the sender, a private equity firm. "Daniel," I whispered, "what is this?"
He exhaled slowly. "I didn't want money to be the reason anyone treated you differently," he said, "and I didn't want your family to see you through me." My mouth went dry. "I'm not a consultant," he continued. "I founded the company." The room felt like it tilted. "I sold my first startup at 27, he said softly. "I reinvested quietly. I keep my name off buildings. I live small because I like it that way." I shook my head. "Why didn't you tell me?"
"Because I wanted to know if you loved me," he said, "and because I wanted to see who your family really was before we tied our lives together." I felt tears finally spill over. "They think I'm nothing," I whispered. Daniel cupped my face. "They think wrong." The invitation. A week later, my parents called. They wanted to clear the air. My sister's wedding planning was in full swing, and apparently my absence was causing tension. So Daniel and I went, not angry, not defensive, calm. My father launched into explanations the moment we sat down. "It wasn't personal," he said. "You understand finances. Your sister has more expectations. You'll have a simpler life." I let him talk. Then Daniel spoke. "We're still getting married," he said evenly, "and we'd like you all to come." My mother smiled in relief. "Oh, that's wonderful. But," he continued, "we'll be hosting." My sister blinked. "Hosting what?" "Our wedding," he replied. Dad frowned. "I thought—" "We've already booked the venue," Daniel said. "The estate in Glenhaven." Silence. That place wasn't just expensive, it was legendary. My sister's smile faltered. "That place costs—" Daniel nodded. "Yes, it does." Dad cleared his throat. "How exactly are you paying for this?" Daniel turned to me and smiled. The day everything changed. The wedding day arrived like a quiet storm. The estate glowed under soft lights. Guests arrived in disbelief. Whispers followed every step. My parents stood stiffly near the entrance, overwhelmed. My sister looked unsettled, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't the center of the universe. I walked down the aisle calm, steady, unbreakable. Not because of the dress, not because of the venue, but because I finally understood something. I had never needed their approval. I had survived without it.
During the reception, Daniel took the microphone. He didn't boast. He didn't expose. He simply said, "I'm grateful to marry a woman who learned strength before she ever learned comfort. Someone who was overlooked and still chose kindness. Someone who never asked for more but deserved everything." His eyes met my father's. "And I'm grateful," he added, "that today is a reminder that love isn't measured by who gets more, but by who stands up when it matters." My father didn't clap. He just stared. After the applause. Later that night, as guests danced and laughter filled the air, my father approached me, alone. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I know," I replied. He hesitated. "You could have told us." I shook my head. "No," I said gently. "You could have treated me fairly without knowing." He didn't argue, because he couldn't. What I took with me. I didn't take revenge. I didn't demand apologies. I took something better. Clarity. I learned that some families love conditionally, that some parents confuse control with care, and that sometimes the person who truly sees your worth isn't the one who raised you, but the one who chooses you. My sister never apologized, but she stopped competing. My parents never admitted they were wrong, but they stopped minimizing me. And me? I stopped shrinking. The ending that matters. Years later, when people ask how Daniel and I met, I smile. But when they ask how I learned my worth, I tell them this. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you isn't money. It's showing you who they are, so you can decide who you will be. And I chose myself, for the first time and forever.